My girlfriend said, "I need to get closure first." I answered, "Then I'll go by myself." Then, I canceled her ticket, went ahead with the Maldives trip on my own, let her go back to her ex, and simply watched as her idea of closure turned into a lesson we both won't forget. I'm Ryan, 32, project manager at a mid-sized construction firm in Denver. I'm not flashy, but I'm organized, financially stable, and I plan things months in advance. That matters for context. My girlfriend, Ava, is 29. She works in PR and thrives on intensity. We've been together a little over 2 years. No shared assets, no lease together. We each keep our own apartments. Back in January, I booked a 2-week Maldives trip for July. Overwater villa. Flights. Non-refundable excursions. It wasn't impulsive. I saved for it. It was meant to be our big step trip before we seriously discussed moving in together. Ava was ecstatic when I told her. Posted about it immediately. Sent screenshots to her friends. Called it her dream vacation. Then, 3 weeks ago, something shifted. She started bringing up her ex, Marcus. Not often at first. Just in passing. Apparently, he had reached out to apologize for how things ended. They dated for 3 years before me. It ended messy. At least that's what she told me when we started dating. One night we were on my couch looking at snorkeling options when she said it casually. Marcus asked if we could meet up before I go to the Maldives. For closure. Closure. I asked what that meant. She said she just needed to see him one more time. Clear the air. Make sure she felt nothing before taking a big romantic trip with me. That phrasing stuck. I asked why she wasn't sure she felt nothing already. She got defensive immediately. Said I was being insecure. Said mature adults handle unresolved feelings directly. The following week, she brought it up again. More serious tone. I think I owe it to myself to get closure first. There it was. I told her calmly that if she felt unfinished business was a prerequisite to traveling with me. That told me more than she realized. She rolled her eyes and said I was overreacting. That this was about her emotional growth. 2 days later, she made it clear. I'm seeing him next Friday. I need to do this. If you can't understand that, maybe you're not as secure as you think. That was the moment everything became simple. I looked at her and said, okay, then I'll go by myself. She laughed like I'd just made a petty joke. I wasn't joking. And that's where the plan quietly changed. She genuinely thought I was bluffing. Ava has this habit of testing boundaries and then recalibrating based on how much resistance she gets. It's subtle, but I've noticed it over time. If I push back hard, she reframes. If I stay calm, she escalates. After I said I'd go alone, she smirked and said, "Don't be dramatic. You're not going to the Maldives solo like some divorced dad finding himself." I didn't argue. I just opened my laptop and logged into the airline portal. 2 separate tickets. Booked under my account. Paid entirely by me. Same for the resort. She Venmo'd me for a small portion of excursions, but the main reservations were under my name. I looked up the cancellation policy for her ticket. Refundable as credit. Transferable with fee. Interesting. That Friday, the day she was supposed to meet Marcus, she dressed like she was going to an audition. New dress. Hair done. Full makeup. She told me not to wait up because closure conversations take time. I asked one question. If this is truly closure, why does it look like a first date? She snapped and said I was insecure again. Then she left. I didn't text her all night. Around 11:40 p.m., she posted a story. Low lighting. 2 wine glasses. No face shown. But it didn't need one. That was enough data. Saturday morning, I canceled her flight. No argument. No announcement. Just clicked cancel and accepted the airline credit under my name. Then I contacted the resort and modified the reservation to single occupancy. Lost a small portion of the prepayment. Worth it. By Sunday afternoon, I booked a scuba diving add-on for myself. When Ava finally came over that evening, she had that smug energy, like she had done something mature and expected praise. I asked how closure went. She said it was emotional, that she realized she still had unresolved feelings. But that didn't mean she wanted him. It just meant she needed clarity before committing further with me. That wording again. Before committing further. I nodded. That's fair. She looked relieved. Then I told her calmly. I canceled your ticket yesterday. I leave in 12 days. Her face actually went blank. You're joking. No. You said you needed closure. I'm not competing with that. So I'll go by myself. She stared at me like I'd broken an unspoken rule. You can't just uninvite me. Actually, I can. I paid for it. The shift in her expression was immediate. Because for the first time, she realized this wasn't a test. It was a decision. The silence stretched for a solid 10 seconds. Ava blinked twice like she was waiting for me to grin and say I was kidding. You're seriously going to punish me because I needed closure? I kept my tone flat. I'm not punishing you. I'm adjusting to new information. She scoffed. New information? Yes. That you're not fully present with me. That irritated her. I told you it wasn't like that. You're twisting this. I didn't argue semantics. I stuck to facts. You went on what looked like a date with your ex 12 days before we're supposed to take a romantic trip. You said you have unresolved feelings. That tells me this isn't the right timing for a couple's vacation. She paced my living room. You're being dramatic. It was one conversation. I glanced at my phone. It lasted 6 hours. She didn't like that I noticed. She switched tactics. So what now? You're just going to sip cocktails alone and pretend everything's fine? Yes. That answer hit harder than any yelling would have. She folded her arms. You'll regret it. People don't go to the Maldives alone. Maybe. But I'd regret funding a trip with someone who isn't sure about me more. That's when she threw it out there. Marcus and I talked about maybe trying again. Just to see. There it was. Not closure. Exploration. I nodded slowly. Then you should explore that fully. Without me waiting in the background. She looked almost offended that I wasn't fighting. You're not even going to try to convince me? No. That's when the tone changed from defensive to irritated. You're acting like you don't care. I do care. That's why I won't compete. She hated that answer. For the next few days, she alternated between cold silence and subtle guilt attempts. Sent me old photos. Mentioned how excited her friends were about the trip. Asked if I could at least transfer her ticket credit to her. I didn't. Because technically, it was airline credit under my account. 5 days before departure, she sent one more message. Are you really going alone? Yes. And that's when she said something that told me everything. Fine. Then I'll just see where things go with Marcus. I didn't respond. I finished packing instead. Because sometimes the only way to see if someone values you is to remove yourself from the equation. And I was about to be 8,000 miles away. The airport felt different this time. Usually when you're traveling as a couple, there's this shared anticipation. The airport beers. The photos. The light bickering over who packed what. This time it was just me, a carry-on, and silence. Ava texted the morning of my flight. I can't believe you're actually doing this. I replied once. You said you needed closure. I'm giving you space for it. No heart emoji. No passive aggression. Just that. She didn't answer. The flight was long, but calm. No tension. No side-eye, checking someone else's mood. Just movies, a book, and sleep. When I landed in Malé and took the speedboat to the resort, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Not freedom. Not revenge. Relief. The overwater villa was exactly as advertised. Clear water. White sand. No drama. That first evening, I ordered dinner for one and sat on the deck watching the sunset. I half expected to feel lonely. I didn't. Instead, I kept replaying her exact phrasing. I need to make sure I feel nothing before taking a big romantic trip with you. That sentence is not neutral. It implies comparison. Day 2, I went diving. Met a couple from Australia who assumed I was recently divorced. I didn't correct them. It was simpler. On day 3, Ava posted a story. Dinner again. Same dim lighting. This time Marcus's hand clearly visible across the table. She knew I'd see it. I didn't react publicly. Instead, I booked a private sunset excursion for myself. Later that night, she finally texted. Marcus thinks it's weird you're over there alone. That one almost made me laugh. I replied, Marcus doesn't get a vote in my travel plans. She called me immediately. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. I didn't think you'd just walk away like this. I hadn't walked away. I had stepped forward. By day 5, her tone shifted. We're still us, right? That question arrived hours after she posted a beach photo from somewhere local with him. I answered the next morning. I'm not competing with your closure. That was the last message I sent from the Maldives. Because at that point, something had already become clear. If she was testing which direction felt better, I wasn't participating in the trial. And the funny thing about space? It tends to reveal who actually fills it, and who just assumed they always would. By day 6, the pattern was obvious. Ava would post something with Marcus. Then she'd message me hours later looking for reassurance. It was like she wanted both lanes open. Test the closure while keeping me emotionally parked. That's when I stopped responding. Completely. I muted her notifications first. Gave it 24 hours. She sent 7 messages. Are you ignoring me? This is childish. We need to talk about where we stand. Marcus thinks you're being manipulative. Why are you acting like I cheated? You're overreacting. Ryan, answer me. That last one hit differently. Not because of the content, because of the tone shift. She was used to me engaging, explaining, defending. I didn't. That night, sitting on the deck with the ocean completely still around me, I opened my phone and did something simple. Blocked her. Calls, texts, Instagram, everything. Not dramatically, not in anger, just cleanly. If she needed closure, she now had uninterrupted space for it. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No buzzing. No checking whether she'd posted something pointed. No analyzing subtext. Just the sound of water. Later that afternoon, a mutual friend messaged me. "Dude, Ava's freaking out. Says you blocked her. Is that true?" I replied, "Yes." The friend sent back a surprised emoji. Apparently, Ava had told people I was on some self-discovery trip and that we were just taking space. She hadn't expected the space to be literal. By evening, another friend reached out. She and Marcus had argued. Apparently, he wasn't thrilled about being framed as a temporary experiment while she waited for me to calm down. That part made sense. No one likes being a rebound disguised as closure. I didn't ask for details. I didn't unblock her. Because here's what changed the moment I canceled her ticket. I stopped trying to win. If she needed to evaluate her feelings, she could do it without my commentary. If she realized she made a mistake, that realization wouldn't need my presence either. On day 8, I booked a couple spa package. For one, it cost extra. Worth it. And somewhere between the massage and the sunset, it clicked. If someone needs to compare you to move forward, you're already being measured. And I don't compete for a relationship I'm already in. By the time my flight home approached, I wasn't wondering what Ava would say. I was wondering whether I'd even want to hear it. And the answer was becoming very clear. I landed back in Denver to exactly what I expected. Chaos. Not loud chaos. Social chaos. The moment I turned my phone off airplane mode, notifications flooded in. Not from Ava. From mutual friends. "Dude, what happened? She says you ghosted her in another country. Are you guys broken up?" Interesting phrasing. Ghosted her. I hadn't ghosted anyone. I had blocked someone who was actively auditioning her ex. I didn't respond immediately. I grabbed my luggage, got in my car, and drove home. My apartment felt smaller than when I left, but cleaner. Still mine. Still quiet. That evening, my best friend Josh came over with takeout. He'd seen enough of Ava's posts to piece things together. "So, let me get this straight," he said. "She went on dates with her ex while you were in the Maldives and thought you'd just wait?" "Pretty much." He shook his head. "You finally stopped playing backup quarterback." That phrase stuck. Backup quarterback. That's what it had been, apparently. She wanted the stability of me while testing chemistry with him. Around 9 p.m., Josh showed me something. Ava had posted a long story rant about men who weaponize silence and emotional immaturity. No names, but obvious context. Then came the kicker. Marcus had commented publicly, "Some people don't deserve closure." That told me more than anything else. If Marcus felt slighted, that meant she hadn't committed there either. She had been playing both sides. By midnight, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. It was her work email. "You block me everywhere." That's insane. We need to talk like adults. I read it once. Then I blocked that too. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. The next morning, another friend called. Apparently, Ava and Marcus had argued 2 days earlier. He didn't appreciate being the closure option. He wanted something real or nothing. She wanted time. He didn't. Now she had neither. And for the first time, I felt something other than calm. Not satisfaction. Perspective. Closure isn't something you get by reopening doors. It's something you get by choosing one. She tried to stand in both. And doors have a way of closing when you do that. I still hadn't heard her voice. And I was starting to think I didn't need to. 3 days after I got back, she showed up. Not at my door dramatically pounding. Not screaming in the parking lot. She just texted Josh asking if I was home. He told her he wouldn't mediate. 20 minutes later, I heard a knock. I opened the door halfway. She looked different. Less polished. Less certain. No makeup. Hoodie. Defensive posture masked as confidence. "So this is it," she said. "You just disappear on me?" I kept my voice steady. "You went looking for closure." She rolled her eyes. "You know that's not what I meant." "Actually, I don't." She stepped forward like she expected to be invited in. I didn't move. "Marcus and I aren't talking anymore." That wasn't surprising. She continued. "He said I was using him, that I wasn't serious." I nodded once. "Were you?" That irritated her. "You're twisting this." I just needed to be sure. Sure of what? That I was choosing the right person. That sentence landed exactly how it should have. Choosing. I leaned against the doorframe. You don't test drive your ex to evaluate your current relationship. She snapped back. People need closure. No, people need commitment. Silence. For the first time since all of this started, she didn't have a quick comeback. She shifted tactics. You embarrassed me. You went to the Maldives alone like I didn't matter. I answered calmly. You told me you needed to make sure you felt nothing before taking a big romantic trip with me. I gave you space to feel whatever you needed to feel. Her jaw tightened. You blocked me. Yes. That word hit harder than an argument would have. Why? Because I don't compete. She stood there, staring at me like she was recalculating something. I didn't think you'd actually walk away. That again. The assumption. I didn't walk away. I stepped aside. She asked the question I knew was coming. Are we done? I didn't hesitate. Yes. She laughed once, sharp and defensive. Over one conversation. No. Over the fact that you weren't sure about me while I was sure about you. That's not fixable by another dinner. She looked like she wanted to argue. Then like she wanted to cry. Then like she wanted to rewind the last 3 weeks. Instead, she just said quietly, You're really okay with this? I answered honestly. I'm okay not being compared. That was the last thing I said before closing the door. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel intrigue. I felt final. The days after she showed up were quieter than I expected. No dramatic apology posts. No vague inspirational quotes. No public spiraling. Just silence, which told me she was recalibrating. About a week later, a mutual friend invited me to a small rooftop birthday thing. I almost skipped it. Not because of Ava, but because I didn't feel like being the topic. I went anyway. She was there. Not dressed to impress this time. Just present. We didn't approach each other immediately, but people notice tension the way they notice weather. It shifts the room. Halfway through the night, she walked over while I was grabbing a drink. Can we talk without you shutting the door on me this time? I kept it neutral. We can talk here. She nodded. I made a mistake. First direct admission I'd heard. I didn't say anything. She continued. I thought if I tested the feelings, I'd be more sure about us. And she looked away. I realized I wasn't unsure about you. I was unsure about myself. That was probably the most honest thing she'd said so far. I asked one question. So why involve him? She sighed. Because I thought I could control it. There it was. Control. She thought she could reopen something, evaluate it, close it neatly, and come back to me with a cleaner conscience. Life doesn't run like that. She looked at me carefully. You didn't fight for me. I answered evenly. You didn't choose me. Silence. That one hit. She swallowed and shifted slightly closer. If I said I'm choosing you now, I cut in gently. You don't get to circle back after a comparison test. Her jaw tightened. You're being stubborn. No, I'm being consistent. She looked frustrated. Marcus isn't even in the picture anymore. That wasn't the point. The point was she put him in the picture to begin with. She studied my face like she was searching for softness. You're really done. Yes. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just yes. She nodded slowly. Almost like she respected it, even if she didn't like it. Later that night, she left early. No scene. No tears. Just departure. And as I drove home, I realized something subtle. If she had never tried to measure us against something unfinished, we'd probably still be together. But once someone treats you like an option to compare against, the dynamic changes permanently. And some lessons don't come from arguments. They come from absence. And now, absence was doing its work. About 2 weeks after the rooftop conversation, I stopped hearing about her entirely. No updates from friends. No social media noise. No indirect messages. Which usually means one of two things. Either someone has fully moved on, or they're trying to. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. It was Marcus. I didn't even know he had my number. I kept my tone neutral. Yeah, he exhaled sharply. I'm not calling to start anything. I just wanted to say something man to man. That phrasing alone told me he was irritated. He said Ava had told him I'd overreacted, that I'd been controlling, that I'd punished her for seeking closure. Then he said something interesting. She told me she thought you'd wait, that you wouldn't risk losing her over pride. There it was again. The assumption. He continued. I don't want to be in the middle of whatever that was. But she wasn't choosing either of us. She was hedging. I appreciated the honesty. He finished with this. You did the right thing. For what it's worth. That surprised me. When we hung up, I sat there for a minute thinking about that word. Hedging. That's exactly what it was. She wasn't seeking closure. She was trying to minimize risk. Keep the stable boyfriend. Retest the old spark. Then decide. The problem is, that strategy only works if the stable boyfriend plays along. I didn't. A few days later, a mutual friend told me Ava had started therapy. Apparently, she admitted she self-sabotages when things get serious, that she reopens old doors to avoid committing fully to new ones. That explanation made sense, but understanding a pattern doesn't make it compatible. Last weekend, I went on a date. Nothing intense, just dinner, conversation, easy, no comparisons, no tests, no ghost stories hovering over the table. And for the first time in a while, I realized something simple. Healthy feels quieter, less dramatic, less cinematic. No one needs closure before boarding a plane. They just get on it. And if they're unsure about you, you don't wait at the gate hoping they choose the right seat. You board without them. And you don't look back to see if they're running down the terminal. Because if they were sure, they'd already be next to you. And now, for the first time since this all started, I didn't feel intrigue. I felt steady. It's been about 3 months now. No dramatic reunion. No late-night apology paragraphs. No, I made a mistake. Let's start over speech. Just distance. I ran into Ava one last time at a coffee shop near my office. Total accident. She was sitting by the window with a laptop open, looking more focused than I'd ever seen her. She saw me, hesitated, then gave a small nod. I walked over. Not because I felt anything unresolved, just because I don't avoid normal human interactions. We exchanged the usual surface-level updates. Work, weather, mutual friends. Then she said something that wrapped the whole thing up in a single sentence. I thought closure meant tying up loose ends. I didn't realize I was creating new ones. I didn't interrupt. She continued. I thought if I proved I felt nothing for him, I'd feel more secure about you. Instead, I proved I wasn't secure about anything. That was the most self-aware thing she'd said since this started. I nodded once. That's the thing about closure. It's not something you collect from someone else. It's something you decide on your own. She looked tired, but calmer. I never thought you'd actually go without me. There it was again. The original miscalculation. I smiled slightly. You told me you needed to make sure before committing to the trip. I didn't want to be someone you committed to conditionally. She didn't argue with that. Marcus wasn't the issue. The Maldives wasn't the issue. Even closure wasn't the real issue. It was this. She wanted reassurance while exploring alternatives. And I didn't. We stood there a moment longer, neither of us angry, just aware. She finally said, I guess that trip taught us both something. It did. For her, that you can't keep 2 doors open and expect both rooms to stay lit. For me, that if someone needs to measure you against a past version of love, you're already being weighed. And I don't participate in auditions. We said goodbye without tension. No promises. No maybe someday. Just done. Looking back, I don't regret canceling her ticket. I don't regret going alone. I don't regret blocking her. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in a relationship isn't arguing harder. It's stepping aside and letting someone test their theory without you. If they come back certain, maybe it works. If they come back unsure, you already have your answer. She needed closure. I needed commitment. Turns out, those aren't the same thing. And once you realize that, the decision makes itself.